Good evening, my dear colleagues. Welcome to another INGET Zoom Serious Talk. Today, our guest is Associate Professor Dr. Aysel Sarıcaoğlu. Aysel Hocam works as an Associate Professor in the Department of English Language and Literature at Social Sciences University of Ankara, Turkey. Her research interests include computer-assisted language learning, automated writing evaluation, corpus linguistics, academic writing, and syntactic complexity. Her work has appeared in journals such as Assessing Writing, Journal of English for Academic Purposes, Calico, Call, and Recall. The title of her talk this evening is Automated Assessment in Elt. Thank you, dear Aysel Hocam, for being with us, accepting to be a guest speaker, and welcome again. The screen is all yours.
Thank you, Hocam, for the kind offer. This is really very nice for me to be with this community here. I don't really have a lot of chances to present to the community of teachers, including, instructors, teachers, or future teachers. So this is an exciting moment. I will do my best, try to do this session as practical as possible too, because as you already mentioned, our work is more research heavy. But I will share what I know. I will share my perspectives about automated assessment in ELT with a particular focus on writing assessment, which is my area of expertise. In this presentation, I will first start with why we need to use automated tools for assessment purposes, and for what specific purposes, with with an emphasis on formative and summative assessment. And I will give examples from 3 technological applications. One is an automated writing evaluation application, which is Grammarly. The other one is a machine translation application, which is Google Translate. And the last one is an artificial intelligence application, which is ChatGPT. And then I will try to give perspectives from second language acquisition theories, and also support our pedagogical implementations with findings from research to give ideas in terms of how we can design practices in line with second language acquisition theories and findings from research studies. The aim with this is, of course, to better learning outcomes. During my presentation, I can ask a few questions to the people here, and it is certainly fine if you ask me questions too. So I would like to start with today's realities, the characteristics of today's students, because this gives us the answer to the question of why we actually need to benefit from existing technological tools. I don't know what kind of a student you were in your childhood, but for sure I was not technology literate. I did not have digital literacy. I was curious, but the resources or the opportunities that I had were limited for me to improve my curiosity. So in line with this, the other related factors, creativity, speed, or my ability to access resources, etc., etc. So characteristics change, and when I look at today's children, today's students, either young learners or adult learners, I see that they are more digitally literate than we are. They are more curious, and they can find answers to their questions because they have easy access. Thanks to the internet and the technology, they have access to resources so that they can answer their questions. They are faster than us because they are developing with this technology. We are still learning using technology, right? Even though we do research on it. When when you think about your students, if you are already teaching, can you share with us what other characteristics you see that are specific to the children of this age? Anything you would like to add to this list? Anything you can think of that I was not able to? Yes, hocam. Attention span. They are impatient, I agree. But why are they impatient? Because they live in a faster age than us. Yes, they have attention problems too, hocam. You are right. Does technology help us address their impatience in a way? Or is the technology the responsible for their impatience? Yes, I agree. So thinking of these characteristics, we know that technology can be a resource, right? I see that my internet connection is unstable. I hope you can hear me clearly. So in addition to some parents, they don't know how to educate their children. I'm a parent too, and I don't know what to say. I don't know if this is related to the technological, habits, etc. I also would like to link this, the characteristics of today's students, to the necessary conditions for second language acquisition. First language acquisition and second language acquisition are similar, but they are not the same. So the conditions for first language acquisition may be different from the conditions that are necessary for second language acquisition. For example, in first language acquisition, interaction is very important, input is very important, or negotiation for meaning is very important. But second language acquisition or foreign language acquisition, the conditions might be different. Of course, input is still a necessary condition, especially for instructed language development, right? But motivation has a bigger factor. Noticing has a big role, or awareness has a very important role. I also would like to very briefly mention the difference between second language acquisition and foreign language acquisition, because I prepared my presentation thinking about the context in Turkey, thinking about our own context, where actually English is a foreign language, because it's not the language of the real life. It is mainly limited to classroom language, etc. So when we think about these necessary conditions and there are technological applications, how are we, the biggest question is, how are we going to make informed decisions, right? You go to conferences or you see from your colleagues, your teachers, there are several applications and people are using them. Teachers are using them. In fact, I am surprised to see the level of technology integration in elementary schools or high schools. With negotiation here, we mean trying to get the meaning correctly, people trying to understand each other. So, for example, I will continue trying to answer the same question at the same time. Example, I always give when I talk about, how to choose these technological applications is Kahoot. Because I know people use Kahoot. I know English language teachers use Kahoot. I went to a translation conference and those researchers or translators, scholars, translation scholars, they also presented on Kahoot. They were using Kahoot in the translation class too. So I'm like, what does Kahoot have? Everybody use Kahoot, What kind of a condition does it provide for learning? Is there something that I am not able to see? And when I ask people about, why do you love Kahoot? Why do you use Kahoot? The main answer, which is also the most common answer, is because it's fun. Fun is, yes, one of the aspects of the conditions necessary for language development, because we have motivation here, right? When a student feels interested, engaged, having fun, then we can say that, yeah, it's engaging. We can say that their motivation level is higher, right? But what else? What other conditions we need? So I think this is the question that we need to answer when we choose these technological applications. For example, I ask some teachers, do you tell your students to use Google Translate, or do you tell them not to use Google Translate? And to my observation and according to anecdotal evidence, not all teachers like Google Translate. So we will come to that. But before that, let me start with automated writing evaluation. I don't know, Jam, your favorite. I love it too. I don't know for what purpose you use Google Translation, but for my own purposes, it helps. So one area of technology that is very commonly used for formative assessment in second language writing is automated writing evaluation. There are different automated writing evaluation programs, actually several examples in the literature, in the practical areas. I chose Grammarly today because Grammarly has a free version. And that free version makes students access it easily. Grammarly is advertised everywhere, almost everywhere on the internet. So they know about it. I never tell, for example, my students to use Grammarly, but I know that they do. I see that they use Grammarly, right? You love Grammarly too? Yeah, I love it too. And I can understand easily why students use it, right? There is some value in it. If students use a technological application without being instructed or without a requirement from the teacher, then I think there is some value in it. Maybe we are not aware of. So, so I always ask myself, or ask the students, what is it that makes you use Grammarly, or why should we encourage our students to use Grammarly? Grammarly is an automated writing evaluation tool, which means it's an online system, which means it evaluates written text automatically in seconds, focusing on some linguistics aspects such as grammar, lexis, or mechanics. And it gives instant feedback. The instant feedback, here we have an example from a doc that I used today, and it has some, as you see, grammatical mistakes. Yes, see what different forms of feedback Grammarly gives, and it's interesting that people use it. So the feedback here, as you see, is in colors. For example, in my talk, mine is underlined, right? And then mine is highlighted in red too. And perspectives is also underlined. These are different types of errors, actually, but they are all made salient. With salient, we mean that they are highlighted in a way, right? Either through different colors or underlining, etc. And here on the right part of the screen, you see that the errors are listed with some direct comments to the user, to the learner, or correct pronoun usage, correct your spelling. What else do I have here? And here, it crosses out your error, mine, for example, and gives you the correct option. In Elt writing literature, this is corrective feedback, direct feedback when your error is directly corrected by the system. The student or the user has a chance to accept this, right? And when you accept the error, it is directly corrected. But here, for the perspectives error, it provides you, it gives you two options, perspectives or perspective. So this is not a direct form of correction, but you have a chance to think as a user and correct your own error. So this can be considered to be more maybe indirect than the other one, as you have some thinking, you have to do some thinking over it. So easy to use, right? Everything is pretty clear. It's a user-friendly system, etc. But should we use Grammarly only because it corrects our errors, right? Without thinking the real value behind it, is potential for language learning development or not? So the questions that we need to ask here with SLA perspectives for formative assessment are questions like this. You can certainly add more questions here. Is there negative evidence signaling what does not work in English? Negative evidence meaning the negative feedback. Do we consider, for example, this underlining as negative feedback? Yes, we do, because it signals that there is a problem here linguistically, that this linguistic feature does not work in English according to the accuracy rules, right? So, is attention drawn to form? You know, focus on form and focus on meaning is also very important for language development according to second language acquisition theories. How do we understand that there is focus on form or there is focus on meaning? For example, in this my error or in the mine error, right? In my talk, there's attention drawn to the form, right? But compared with this, the error perspectives, because there are two options provided, perspective or perspectives, right? Is it my perspective, my perspective? So there might be more meaning focus here. There was actually another error that I did not include here. It was with English language teacher. So should this be the correction? Should it be the English language teacher or should it be with English language teachers? So there's also some meaning focus here too. Are there opportunities for interaction? Another important question that we can answer according to the SLA perspectives. Interaction in the past only occurred between human and human, but with humans interacting with computers, now interaction is also defined as the interaction between the human and the computer. But how are these interactional opportunities defined? What counts as an interaction? For example, every time the user clicks on something here, for example, does the user want to see the error correction suggestions for perspectives? So the user clicks, right? And then two options are provided and the user chooses one. So each of these clicks are actually counted within the level of interaction here. And is linguistic difficulty appropriate? This linguistic difficulty here refers to this own self-editing, self-revising process. Can the user, can the student complete this task on their own? If not, the answer to this question is no. The linguistic difficulty is not appropriate for the student. If the answer is yes, then yes, the linguistic difficulty is appropriate. So it is the same for all the questions. Every time we have a yes answer, it means that a condition which is necessary for second language development exists, right? And all these yeses in total show the potential of Grammarly to support language development. I don't know your contexts, but in our teaching contexts, if it is not a writing class, our students do not have a lot of chances to receive language support in their written assignments. And this language support can be direct feedback, indirect feedback, detailed, generic or not. We don't know, right? It changes according to how many students we have, how many assignments we assign throughout the semester, how many classes we teach. So it's all up to our workload. But in contexts where it is not a writing class and where students do not receive language support, there is this existing technology that can support them. They can use them autonomously without the teacher, right? So why not use them? But how do we make this decision according to these questions? We need to ask such questions, what conditions does Grammarly create? What conditions does Criterion create? Criterion is another automated writing evaluation tool. It was developed by Educational Testing Service. It is very commonly used in the United States, but it doesn't have a free version. Actually, I don't have any research studies published on Grammarly. Most of my AWE studies are on Criterion, because I was in the United States, and then here I did projects for which I had funding, so I could buy students seats, right, accounts for them. But I don't think it makes sense to present to you today about Criterion, because probably you won't be able to, or your students won't be able to use it. It is not very expensive. It's only $20, right? $20 is like it pays for a meal in the United States. But when you convert it to Turkish liras, it is much more. So I don't think any teachers would want their students to pay for an automated writing evaluation tool while there is this free application. I know that the free version of Grammarly is limited in its features, but I have never used the paid version. I don't know if you have, hocalarım. I don't know the features in the paid version of Grammarly, but yes, hocam. Yes, I agree. So noticing, according to the noticing hypothesis, right, it helps them to notice their gaps in the target language, actually, which is the important point here, which is a valid reason to use. Yes, Grammarly, the free version is perfectly satisfactory for us too. We are good, good, hocam. We are experienced writers, right? We write, we publish, we teach writing, etc. But do you use Grammarly? I use Grammarly, right? Because it's not a shame to say that we need this tool. And if as teachers we need this tool, can you imagine to what extent our students need it? So maybe some encouragement would help. So this was the perspectives from second language acquisition theories, right? Informing our pedagogical decisions about whether or not to make use of these tools. What about how to make use of these tools? There are also research studies on these applications, and one that I want to share is about student engagement. Remember, one of the questions was on interaction. Interaction is kind of a synonym here for engagement. And this study was on Grammarly and students' engagement with Grammarly. And in the study, the researcher looked at the behavioral engagement, the cognitive engagement, and the affective engagement. These are three types of engagement students have with automated writing evaluation systems. Behavioral engagement simply is about, how many revisions are there? How many errors does the student attend to and revise and fix, etc.? And how many, I don't know, for how many hours, etc., or how many minutes? It's not right to say hours, right? Good job. Very good. I like that. And cognitive engagement is beyond what we see as the changes on the draft, right? The level, actually, how deep is our engagement with the error feedback. And then there's effective engagement, which is about our emotions and thoughts and perspectives about these tools. So this researcher found out that greater cognitive engagement was revealed through questioning of the automated written corrective feedback to verify the accuracy of the feedback. This is very important because this shows us that our students do not trust automated feedback for 100%, right? These systems are great, yes, but they are not 100% accurate yet. So we need our students to develop this critical perspective when they use AWE systems such as Grammarly. And also questioning the automated feedback, questioning whether is this error feedback correct or not, also increases their cognitive engagement because they are thinking but in a metalinguistic way. And on the opposite, over-reliance on the feedback in case when students accept error feedback or error corrections without questioning them, because sometimes, I don't know about Grammarly, but sometimes Criterion gives incorrect error feedback. And if students just accept them, then we lose our point, right? Why are we using, for example, AWE? Because we want our students to think about their errors. We want them to notice, to increase their awareness, to realize their gaps, etc. So limited cognitive engagement is related with no questioning of the feedback, over-relying on the feedback, etc. And in both levels, actually, there were moderate changes on the draft. So when we look at what student has done, how many errors students have revised or not, this doesn't give us any information about their level of engagement, right? But we need more deeper insight. So this is how actually this study can inform our pedagogy, right? We can focus on cognitive engagement, right? We can instruct or train our students on how to use Grammarly, for example. We can show them examples where error correction feedback is not accurate, right? We can show them or model them about how we can question the accuracy of the automated feedback. Okay. So do we have any questions until now about Grammarly or about automated writing evaluation in general? Or should I continue with Google Translate? One of my favorite applications too. So I guess everybody knows Google Translate. We use it for several language pairs. Probably the most common language pair that we use it is Turkish English, English Turkish, right? I used it for Spanish English and it works even better for Spanish. Google Translate's performance can be considered to be weaker in some languages, including Turkish. So I know that some teachers do not like Google, or I shouldn't say Google Translate, but they do not like their students to use Google Translate. And some reasons that I have observed is that they get the tool to write, to complete their writing assignments, right? They don't use it as an assistant, but they use it as a writer. Some students use it instead of dictionaries, right? Then why do we have dictionaries? They just go to Google Translate. Is it simpler? Does it give more accurate dictionary answers? And some teachers see Google Translate as barriers to critical thinking. And any other reasons that you can count, which are not listed here. Why don't we want our students to use Google Translate? Are there any reasons that you can give? So these are the main reasons. Okay. Şimdi, yes hocam, please.
I started writing, I said, Rajam, but then I said it's going to take a long time. Sorry. Now, the first issue is Google Translate sometimes misses which meaning is intended. So it makes horrendous mistakes. We laugh at them, but for students, they may be very dangerous. Once I remember, the text read as test subjects, and my student translated it as sınav özneleri. So I guess what the machine does is it refers to the first meaning,
Yeah,
without
literal.
looking at the context, or if the context is not given. So that's what I don't like about it.
Yeah, it misses out the contextual information. Yes, I agree. So, there were a lot of discussions earlier about whether Google Translate or machine translators are a friend or a foe, right? And then several other papers have been published to perceive it in a more friendly way, right? Here, for example, I would like to share results from a study in which, this is interesting, in which Google Translate was used with high school learners, which were at the level of A1, A2, according to the CFR levels, right? There were 3 groups of students. One used Google Translation without instruction. The second group used Google Translation with instruction, but this was not like heavy training. The researchers, the trainers only showed them the features of Google Translate, etc. And the last group did not have access to Google Translation. And the 3 groups, they completed the same writing task, which was a narrative task. And at the end, they found that actually those students who had access to Google Translate, who used Google Translate, their written text included higher syntactic complexity and also higher accuracy. Higher accuracy is expected, right? But this finding on syntactic complexity is interesting to me because it shows that actually students, like when we try to write on our own without an accent, the complexity that we have in our own is not the same with the complexity that we have in the second language, right? So we are not able to write, for example, exactly at the A1, A2 level. We are not able to produce complex sentences, but Google Translate automatically helps them to create that. So if we think about this, imitation, repetition perspectives from behaviorism, is it the reason that it helped, right? If students repeatedly use Google Translate, then is this going to help them improve their syntactic complexity in the long term? This is a very interesting question. Yes. This is very correct, hocam. The success benefits, yes, depends on what we want to input. Is it the language? Is it idea development, which Google Translate cannot do anything about, right? Content. But is it the language? So certainly, because these findings are about language itself, right? They are not about the content. But I would like to show you an example about how we can use actually Google Translate for content development as well. This is for using Google Translate for formative assessment purposes, and it is not in a language class, it is in a translation class. In our departments, as part of our curricula, we have also translation classes, right? In English language teaching departments, in English language and literature departments too. In this class, this was my class, and I started it with human translation practice. It was an online class because of the pandemic and then the earthquake, etc. We had to have several online classes. And it was impossible to do human translation, manual translation, because it was so obvious that students were using Google Translate. And then I thought, okay, so there should be another way to do this, right? If they are using Google Translate or machine translation DeepL, then this is the way that I have to design my course around. So what is the way? I talked to a professional translator and I asked them, so what is happening in your profession these days? What is the role of machine translation? And you won't believe what she told me. She said 70% of their translation, professional translation work is done by machine translation. Only 30% of the translation they do manually. So the real profession is already changing, has already changed, right? So what is this fight that we have as teachers? Okay, no Google Translate then, no machine translation, right? Then I gave up and I thought, okay, if this is what is going on in the professional area, then we need to reflect that in our classes too, right? Because it's also our responsibility as teachers to prepare our students for that profession as well. In our department, there are several students who consider translation or working as a translator as an option for their career. This process that they do with machine translation is called post-editing, which means that machines translate the original text and then the human translator, they check, they evaluate, they try to improve. They identify the weaknesses in the machine translation and they correct them, they improve them, etc. So we applied this in our class. There was narrative texts in Turkish. They machine translated the original texts and they read the machine translation and they identified cases where they thought the translation was either weak or incorrect. So they tried to improve. And all these highlighted, both sections here show the parts that they thought the machine translation failed in, and then what changes they made. And when you overall look at this picture and think about this in terms of engagement, linguistically with the output, with the machine translation output, this level of engagement is perfect, considering my pedagogical objectives, right? And then, yes, certainly, human judgment is always, human touch, they say, right, is very important. But şimdi, as a teacher within that course, I read my students' papers, their revisions, they do wonderful post-edits, right? They all pass the class, etc. But scientifically, what evidence do I have except this observational or anecdotal evidence telling me that the system works or for which genre it works? This was the narrative short story genre, but they also did the same task with research articles. Okay, so how are we going to decide, for example, which genre we're going to choose in our class? So we looked at analyzing this data bit by bit. We looked at the genre effect with another translation researcher. So we looked at the frequencies of their post-edits, how many post-edits students made in the narrative genre and in the research article genre, because these frequencies will tell us which genre leads to more engagement. More engagement means more opportunities for language learning, right? Higher potential for language improvement. In this case, translation skills improvement. We looked at the linguistic levels of the post-edits. Did they make changes at the morphological level or at the syntactic level or at the semantic level or at the pragmatic level, right? Semantic level or pragmatic level changes can be more challenging. They can offer more opportunities for learning in terms of translation. And whether the changes were successful or not, and the types of the post-edits, did they just simply delete something? Did they just simply reordered the words, etc.? And we found out that actually there was significantly more student engagement in the short story genre. their post edits were less successful in the short story genre, which tells me as a teacher, you know, which gives me the feedback that I need, right, on what we need to discuss more, right? What are these cases that we need to discuss in class, share our ideas, etc., to find the highest translation quality, to share examples, etc., with the students. So this is another example of how to use Google Translate for formative assessment purposes, and how actually findings from research, my own research for my own practice, informs my future practices in class. When I teach translation, for example, I'm not going to include research article post-editing because students are already successful in it, because Google Translate is more successful in translating research language because it's more technical, right? It's more scientific, etc. So, do we have any questions until now? Or I will continue with ChatGPT. The last type of technology is artificial intelligence and ChatGPT. I'm not going to show examples like Ahmet Hocam. I'm not that capable yet, sorry to disappoint, but this was when we were working with Ahmet Hoca and Erdem Hoca on our ChatGPT study. This is a real life example, and I love it because it shows the questions, the real questions in the users of ChatGPT. Here, a user with this, nickname wrote on Reddit this. Posted this idea that, probably the user is going to take the IELTS exam, and the user asked ChatGPT to score their essay using IELTS band descriptors and scores. So, and then the user shares the response from IELTS, right? And here you see ChatGPT evaluated the IELTS essay, that it demonstrates a good understanding, that it would receive a score out of 9, right? 7 or 8, and a good range of vocabulary. See, these criteria are the criteria that are used in writing tests, high stakes writing tests. And then here, look at the comment. I don't think you actually understand how testing and assessment work if you really rely on ChatGPT. And the following comments, right? It's not reliable yet. I have experimented with ChatGPT and essays. It's unreliable. Try this. Take the same essay you used, send it to ChatGPT again, see what scores it gives, then do it again. I have done it 3 times, blah, blah, blah. So this is a real question, right? And the same question is asked by researchers, right? There are already research papers out there asking how reliable ChatGPT assessment. So why do we need ChatGPT to do summative assessment? This is summative assessment, right? Giving scores to essays. Because we have 90 students in our writing classes, it takes time. So we need, if a tool can assess, maybe we can get some support from the tool. It's time saving, right? So we asked the same question actually with Ahmet Hoca and Erdem Hoca for classroom data. We wanted ChatGPT to holistically and analyze score a lot of essays that were written by students in 3 different genres: argumentative, critical reflection, and literary analysis. These 3 types of essays are common in English language and literature departments, but they are not common essay types in high stakes tests, writing tests, except the argumentative genre, right? And holistic scoring and analytical scoring, you probably know the difference, but let me repeat that. Holistic scoring is evaluating the overall quality of a text and giving it a score, let's say out of 9, out of 100. It does not have any specific components of criteria that we need to pay attention. But in analytical scoring, we do have different components of criteria like organization, content development or idea generation, language, right, vocabulary, etc. And we compared ChatGPT's both holistic and analytical scores with teacher scores, scores that were given by 2 teachers. And look what we found. In analytical scoring, there were no significant differences in one genre, argumentative genre. But in the other 2 genres, ChatGPT's and the teacher's scores were significantly different from each other. This is important because in the analytical scoring, we gave ChatGPT the criteria. We told the system, give your score based on these criteria. And even so, in 2 genres, for 2/3 of the essays, actually, the scores were not consistent. In holistic scoring, there was higher consistency, both in argumentative genre and in the literary analysis genre, but not again in the critical reflective essay genre. And personally, I don't think ChatGPT scored argumentative essays using the criteria in a reliable way, not because it can do reliable scoring or because we gave it the criteria for the analytical scoring, but because it was argumentative genre. This system is informed by the internet, right? Lots of data on the internet, and argumentative essay is the most commonly assessed type of genre in high stakes tests. So there's a lot of argumentative essays on the internet. There's a lot of assessment criteria. So probably the system is informed for that genre much more than it is informed for the other genres, because these are classroom genres. They are not really high stakes testing genres. When you still, but this is about summative assessment, right? And summative assessment the only way for us to use ChatGPT? No. What about the pedagogical practices, right? What about formative assessment, etc.? There is not yet much about the formative assessment potential of ChatGPT, but there's a lot of suggestions in research articles. For example, collaborating with ChatGPT. I would like to emphasize again that nobody encourages using it as a writer by the students, right? But using it as a collaborator in different phases of the writing process. This is very important, okay? So research still informs our pedagogical use of ChatGPT. How should we use it? We should use it as part of the writing process. For example, in the outlining stage, or in the preparation stage, or in the revision stage, where ChatGPT actually works as a feedback resource, right? It evaluates your content, language, etc. We can use it as a proofreader, or we can use it as a tool to reflect upon our writing after the writing is done, right? Writing is done. And another research study here exemplifies the pedagogical uses in 3 stages. Again, as a peer-writing tool, as a during writing tool, and as a post-writing tool. But in all studies, we are recommended to use it as an assistant, but not to use it as a writer, not to use it for idea or creating the written text. We can use it for idea generation to support our ideas probably, right? But not to use it for creating the text. These studies are helpful because they are informed by research, they are informed by data, which we do not have right now, right? We don't have the data to support our formative decisions, our decisions about the formative use of ChatGPT. So another critical point here is to decide which research articles to read. For example, the ones that I share here are from Assessing Writing, which is one of the top journals in the writing field. So if you would like to find ideas about how to use ChatGPT for example, pronunciation purposes, for speaking purposes, you need to find your good resource about that, okay? You need to read the correct or the appropriate resources for that. So, Hocam, let me conclude with your questions or comment. I felt that I spoke fast in the second half just to be on time, not to take so much time. So let's continue with comments and questions, sharing ideas. I would really love that.
Hocam, thank you very much. It was such an informative talk. Plus, you have given so many examples. It clarified whatever questions we have planned to ask you, in fact. If you're done with sharing your screen, can we just switch to the other mode so that we can see each other? My dear colleagues, if just end sharing the screen, that will be sufficient. If you have any questions or any comments, you can either raise your hand and ask your own question, or if you cannot turn on your device, just write your question in the chat box.
Hocam, I'm not able to end.
Okay, don't worry, Hocam, don't worry. Just leave it there like that. Well, of course, people are thanking you for this very informative talk.
Thank you very much.
I have one question here. Now, this is going to sound very much like a student. Okay, so take me as a student. If I want to use Google Translate, can I scan the text, put it there, or do I need to type it? Because I'm too lazy to type it there.
Oh, it's like an already existing text. It's not an originally created essay or text by you, right, Hocam? So well, it's like, for example,
I said, Hocam, this is what a student will ask. So that's what I'm doing right now.
So yes, I will respond with my son's favorite answer. I don't know. I really don't know, Hocam.
Okay.
I have never tried
so
it.
We'll try. We'll
Ahmet
try.
Hocam, maybe Ahmet Hoca knows.
I don't know, but Ahmet Hocam has made a very, very nice remark here. He says, I think if there is machine-based artificial intelligence, human touch, human justification, human verification is a must. Bravo, bravo, definitely. When we are dealing with language independent of language, whether we use it with translation, automated essay, evaluation, speaking, etc. Definitely. Definitely. And Aysel Hocam has given a very good example for that. Remember the original text, Google translated form, and then the adopted form by the student. And I have noticed certain differences, big differences in the automated translation and the human translation, which shows that the student can understand how that automated translation fails to make sense, which requires at least, I believe, B2 plus or C1 level English, I guess. I mean, lower level students may not be able to do that. Plus, don't forget that this was a translation course.
Yes.
Right, Aysel Hocam, and these were university students?
Second year university students. So their level was B1, B2, Hocam, not C1. Certainly.
Okay. Well, do we have any C1 in Turkey? I don't know. Turan Hocam, you have unmuted yourself, which means You're going to ask a question or make a comment. Go ahead.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm very happy
Hi
Hello.
to be with
hocam.
you again. Yeah,
So
thank you
nice
very
to
much.
see you again.
Yes,
Very nice. Yeah.
we had a very long summer, and now it's time to be together again. I love
Yes.
talking about and chatting with you on these issues.
Yes.
Yes, Aysel Hocam has presented wonderful ideas, and then how it can be used, especially with professionals and also high level students. ChatGPT or the other things, I mean, if the language level of the student is really low, they will just use them to produce the language. But when their level is higher, like B1 and above, yes, they can cooperate with ChatGPT or DeepL or the other things. Because for the very low level students, if they can produce, they will have some problems because they will be at interlanguage level. So the teacher should not expect accuracy with them because they will have some accuracy mistakes like telegraphic speech, I would say. So they will have uh, grammar, subject verb agreement problems, preposition problems, article problems at that level, which is normal. So it should be context bound, and then if the students can give the message, it should be accepted. But if they use ChatGPT, they will have high level of accuracy, as Aysel Hocam has mentioned. So it's not their English. That creates
Yes.
another problem. So when I
So,
receive like A2 level students homework assignment, when I see that there is no mistake, and I say, who has written this? I ask this question because I know their level. So
Mhm.
sometimes they come across so complex sentences, and I say, you are not, New York Times newspaper writer to write these sentences. So I think
Very, very
these kind
unfortunate.
of software programs are useful, B1 level and above level students rather than lower level. But on the other
Mhm.
hand, we can use them as input provider. I mean, they can listen to short stories or watch if there is watching. I don't know. Does ChatGPT can they watch anything with ChatGPT? I don't know. I haven't used in that respect. Ahmet Hocam.
Me neither hocam.
So my idea is yes, it's really useful when their level is up, when their level is B1 and above level.
Mhm.
So we can ask them to use with the suggestions that Aysel Hocam has mentioned, that they can use it for proofreading, editing, or to get some ideas to start with, maybe. Especially
yeah.
with my ALT students, when they prepare a presentation, I say, ask ChatGPT, get some suggestions, and then design your ideas around keywords that ChatGPT provides. And some students are really successful about it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you hocam.
I have nothing against these devices, these programs, these apps. It's just I just want to say something. Writing research shows that writing with a piece of paper and pen or pencil helps the learner internalize language much better than anything else. It helps the learner retain information longer rather than texting, rather than typing, just writing. So I think we need to have fun, game-like activities in the classroom to help students actually write. Okay, I know they are finger generation because they
Hyper.
keep typing, texting, whatever, but please, my dear colleagues, spare at least 5 minutes in the classroom, at least I say, and do some kind of fun activity. I'm not saying copying whatever you have written on the board, Okay, fun activity where they can use paper and pen, right? And then for the rest, they can use whatever technology they want to. But even now, when I want to remember what Aysel Hoca has said, I keep notes. I write it down because then I carve it in my brain. It's not like listening and nodding and, texting. It's not like that. So please take that into consideration as well, okay? But of course, these opportunities are so fascinating right now, it is almost impossible not to come up with a piece of work of art, in fact, maybe even a short story. But I'm not an expert in this field, but I believe you need to give the correct commands so that so that technology serves you. Okay, so you need to know how to control it, because otherwise it will control you. Right. Oh my God. I that was a very, very philosophical statement. I'm impressed by myself. Okay. Ahmet Hocam, you're really one of my favorite people. Thank you very much. He's offering to share my
Very generous.
subscriptions. Yes. I cannot see
Subscription
any
with
other comments or remarks or questions in the chat box, Aysel Hocam, and I know that you want to end this session and go home, be with your
no
family.
problem.
So
No problem.
I definitely thank you from the bottom of my heart for being with us, sharing all these wonderful ideas with us. We have learned and had fun. Thank you. And as
Thank you very
usual,
much, Hocam.
as usual, thank you, my dear colleagues, because you make everything more fun, more beautiful. I hope to see you next week with another guest. Aysel Hocam, would you like to say bye?
Yes, yes. I really appreciate everybody's time on this Friday evening. So thank you very much, hocalarım. Lucky to have you here today. I hope everybody has a great night and see you in the next following Engage series.
Bye-bye, everyone. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.